self-control, impulse regulation. So it helps us keep our emotions in check and stay on our diet, arguing against ice cream for dinner. Now, unfortunately, the prefrontal cortex thins with age, which results in impaired memory and cognitive decline, and is the basis for what Deborah referred to as those, what was I going to say, moments?
Okay, so what you're saying is that when we're stressed, and the brain releases CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone. See, I'm a good student. It causes those finger-like axons and dendritic spines to retract and could even decompose, so our cells can't communicate with each other. And also the prefrontal cortex to thin.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So are there ways to make the prefrontal cortex not thin as we get older, or at least slow down the process?
Yes, there is. And before I go into that, I want to give people a little bit more encouragement, which is, as we mentioned, how the spines contract and the cells can effectively communicate. Well, if you've had the experience of test anxiety or performance anxiety, and then you leave the situation and all of a sudden everything comes flooding back again, you think, why didn't I remember it? Well, that's because once the stress is gone and the CRH is metabolized out of the brain, the spines seem to grow back. Okay, so it's not a forever problem. You're stressed once and you've irreparably damaged them. They do grow back. Now, most of you have heard, so getting on to Deborah's next question about what can we do to prevent the prefrontal cortex from thinning and actually to even reverse it, which is even better. Most of you have probably heard that meditation is a potent stress management technique. In fact, you'd have to be living off the grid on some deserted island for the last several decades not to have heard this. But meditation actually does a whole lot more than just manage stress. It literally helps to grow a bigger brain, once again, thickening the areas that normally thin with age. And as you can see in this slide, multiple studies, including this one by Sarah Lazar at Harvard, concluded that the average cortical thickness of 40 to 50-year-old meditating participants was similar to the average cortical thickness of 20 to 30-year-old non-meditators. And remember, at 20 years old, the brain hasn't even started to atrophy. So a 40-year-old whose brain is like a 20-year-old is absolutely remarkable. And this is further corroborated by multiple studies, including this one by Eileen Muters at UCLA Center for Neuroimaging. And her research yielded the conclusion that meditation may slow, stall, and yes, even reverse age-related brain degeneration. So while the deterioration may be predictable, by adopting lifestyle choices such as meditation and the other things we're going to be talking about today, it is possible to push back any decline in our cognitive functioning that would significantly impact the quality of our life well into our 90s and beyond. And as a side benefit, as if that's not good enough, meditation also specifically increases that area of the brain responsible for experiencing happiness and other positive emotions. So, like, how great is that?
That is very great. And so we all are convinced that meditation is a key to reversing the aging process of the brain. And somebody sent me a little, I don't, by the way, if you want everybody to see what you're putting in the chat, you have to make sure that the little blue thing at the bottom says everyone. If you want to send something to me personally, somebody said, are there some types of meditation that we recommend over others? We'll talk about that at the end. I'm writing down all of your questions, so never fear, we will answer them. And the free gift that we'll be giving you at the end just might have something to do with meditation. By the way, Ronnie and I have both been meditation teachers for almost a combined 100 years. We figured that out.
Yeah.
Because 2 weeks ago, or not 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I had my 51st anniversary of the day I became a meditation teacher in 1972. I can't remember, it's either May 17th or 18th of 1972. And Ronnie's 49th anniversary is coming up. So 49 plus 51, 100 years total. So we're pretty good meditation teachers. But my next question is, can you give us a way to get stress under control, like right now, because people can't run out and learn meditation, like, bye, you guys, I'm going to go learn meditation. But I know that there are other ways that you can teach us to calm the stress response. So can you do that right now?
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, because one of the most effective and really quickest and most foolproof methods for getting stress under control is literally right under our nose. And that's because it's our breath. And if it seems kind of like, how could the breath do so much? Well, this is why I pulled up this particular slide to document the power of the breath to conquer stress. And this study is of a specific standardized breathing practice. It's actually an ancient breathing practice called Sudarshan Kriya Yoga, or sky breath for short. And Deborah and I, incidentally, have been doing it every day for decades. And this study measured cortisol, which, as many of you know, is the stress hormone, not a very popular hormone. And in this graph, if you look at the light blue bar on the left, these are newbies. These are people who came into the lab before they learned their sky breath. And the neuroscientists and the molecular biologists, they looked at their cortisol levels through a blood draw. And as you see, this is their cortisol level on the left before their very first sky practice. And then if you look at the light blue bar on the right, this is their cortisol level after their very first session. Immediately, just by doing the breath practice, their cortisol levels drop by more than half. And then if you look at the yellow bar on the left, these are people who've been practicing between 18 months and 3 years. And so you see that when they came into the lab before their daily practice of sky breath, their cortisol levels were already approximately half that of the newbies. And what does this mean? It means that people become more resilient and less thrown by the same stress that exists in everybody's world. And then if you look at the yellow bar on the right, you see that when the experienced practitioners did their daily practice, their cortisol levels, their stress hormones dropped even further. And if this seems quite remarkable to you, as it did to me initially, when we put some attention on our own experience, we can see just one of the many ways that the breath can accomplish this. So how do we breathe when we feel like the woman on the left?
Well, I would say that your breath would be so deeper, longer, deeper and longer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the inhale and the exhale are approximately the same proportion. And how do we breathe when we feel like the poor guy on the right?
Well, not that I would know from personal experience, but I would say shorter, like more rapid, shallower.
Exactly, exactly. So we can see just from this one example how every emotion does produce a specific and corresponding rhythm in the breath. And a powerful study by a researcher in Belgium named Philippot discovered that this is actually a two-way street, that not only do our emotions affect the breath, but breathing in specific patterns can create specific emotional states, as we see in this slide. So isn't it great to know that breathing in certain ways can make us happier and more serene? And by the way, actors use this technique to evoke emotions they need to portray on stage. Deborah and I had a student who was an actress who told us this, that her coach had instructed her certain patterns when she needed to have an experience of an emotion that she needed to portray on stage.
Wow. So, can you go ahead now and teach us a breath to evoke the state of serenity?
Sure. And it's one of my favorites because you can do it anywhere to quickly calm the stress response and regain your ability to think on your feet and maintain your brilliance in stressful situations by protecting those lovely dendritic spines, among other things. And it's a technique called straw breath. And to demonstrate the power of this practice, when my mom was 93 years old, she was living alone still, and she went running to get the phone and fell flat back on the tile. She had a huge bump on her head. Fortunately, she didn't lose consciousness. She called me. I went racing over and I raced her to the hospital, and they did all kinds of tests to make sure there was no brain bleed or fractured skull. And fortunately, everything was good. The doctor came in and he said to her, "Good news, all the tests came back negative. You're going to be fine, other than being black and blue for a little while. But so now we need you to just relax." Because her blood pressure at that point was 199 over 100, which meant that even though the fall didn't do her in, she was in true danger of having a stroke and dying from that. And due to medical reasons, they couldn't give her anything more than they already had to bring down her blood pressure. And it's very common, it's the usual that when a person has a trauma, the fight or flight response kicks in, the heart rate jacks up, the blood pressure goes up for hours. And so he left, and 10, 15 minutes later, the monitor is going and nothing is changing. And so I realized I needed to do something. And I said, "Mom, I'm going to teach you a breathing technique that we teach to gangs in the inner city. And we're going to do it together." And we did the straw breath together. And in 2 minutes, her blood pressure came down 30 points. So here's how we do it. Just sit comfortably, and we're going to take a full breath in through the nose. And then we're going to purse our lips like we're holding one of those very skinny straws from a coffee shop. And we're going to allow the breath at its own rate to go out through the straw. So it's just a slow, comfortable breath. It's not like blowing out a candle. Okay, so if you're someplace where you can close your eyes and you want to do that, it's even more restful. So let's close our eyes and take a full breath in through the nose. Purse the lips and breathe out through the straw. And when you finish that breath, take another in-breath through the nose and out through the straw. And continue breathing in this way for a little while. I'll time us. And let's do one final breath. And when you finish your exhale, you can relax the lips. Allow the breath to return to normal. And when you feel ready, you may open the eyes.
That was amazing. I'm going to give everybody a little bit of time to come out, but isn't it incredible that we were just doing that for like 1 or 2 minutes? And actually, write in the chat how you're feeling right now. I'm feeling completely different, much more calm, much more centered. And I actually had an experience. Carolyn said, "Thank you. I loved it." Deanna, might be Deanna, like my daughter is Deanna, said nice. Robin says relaxed. How did the rest of you feel? Julie says great. Jane says calmer. Catherine says, what is sky breathing? I'll write that down. We'll talk about it at the end. Michelle says, beautiful. Janet, hi, Janet, very calm. I often use this. Janet's an old student of ours, and it always helps. Something that happened to me this time, Ronnie, is that I actually felt my brain um, relaxing. Is it possible to actually feel your brain relax? 'Cause
Well, as the biochemistry in the brain changes, our subjective experience changes, so it's definitely accurate.
Yeah, that was sometimes when you're doing that, I have to multitask to take care of like tech things. And this time everything was in order. So I just was able to, and I felt that like shift in my brain. It was very crazy. So anyway, that was awesome. Thank you so much. A lot of people are saying, Una says, thank you, needed this. One of the other things I just want to say is that one of the reasons why I love this is I even use this in activity. What I mean is like, I tend to be a little bit impatient, right, Ronnie?
A little
Ronnie,
bit,
a little bit.
just a little bit.
It's one of my unsuperpowers. And when I'm feeling impatient, like let's say I'm at the line at the bank and somebody's chatting with the teller and I got to go do 20 more errands before some business meeting I have, and I'm feeling I just do the straw breath and it brings me right back to center. If I'm on a Zoom call, maybe I'm on a board meeting or a business meeting or whatever. And again, maybe somebody's sharing something that I don't agree with and I get kind of worked up, right? Can you relate? I'm getting kind of
It
worked
never
up.
happens.
Never happens, right? Right. And I just do my straw breath. And nobody knows. You're just, nobody is staring at you to see if your lips are pursed. And I just brings me right back to center. So and instead of like being like the guy on the right, I'm more like the woman on the left. So it's thank you so much for this. So now we are going to move ahead with pillar number 2.
Yay, which is healthy diet. When people sit down to eat, they often think about heart health or losing weight, but most people don't think about their brain's health. Yet food has as significant an effect on our brains as does stress. Quite simply because the brain requires more fuel, more energy than any other organ in the body. And food fuels the brain. So, what we eat significantly influences our brain's health and functioning, as well as our mental clarity. Now, unfortunately, some foods cause inflammation in not only the body, but also the brain. And in the brain, this inflammation slows down the communication between our neurons, which is what causes people to feel foggy and dull and slow. And furthermore, brain inflammation is quite serious because it means that nerve cells in the brain are dying. In other words, brain inflammation is causing your brain to atrophy and age too fast. And inflammation also plays a significant role in Alzheimer's, not surprisingly, as well as many other degenerative illnesses, including cardiovascular disease and diabetes and arthritis and osteoporosis, some cancers, and multiple age-related diseases. And by the way, stress does the same thing to the brain as do the wrong foods. Stress also causes brain inflammation.
So you're saying that something as simple as just tweaking our diet can decrease brain inflammation, which would in turn not only increase communication of the neurons for clearer thinking,
Yeah.
but could curtail brain inflammation and brain atrophy. In other words, the aging of the brain and reduce inflammation in the body.
Exactly. It's a lot of bang for the buck.
Yeah. Well, since we eat multiple times every day, and although those of you who are on our extravaganza learn that we are not supposed to snack if we want to create ketosis, but And since you can't tell us every change we need to make in our diets, can you just give everybody one tip, maybe something that you think is a major way we can reduce brain inflammation?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. And I'm happy to share one of the worst offenders that causes brain inflammation. And I don't think anybody's going to be surprised because the answer is white sugar. But the good news is that it's still possible. Oh, gee. Oh, my light just went out.
That's okay. You still,
It's okay.
yes, you still look gorgeous and beautiful. Don't
All
worry.
right, so as long as you can still see. So
Yeah.
it is possible to still enjoy delicious treats without sacrificing taste. And there are many delicious and healthy substitutes like coconut palm sugar, stevia, monk fruit, which is my personal favorite. And the one thing that I want to alert people to is that you need to be wary of artificial sweeteners. For example, sucralose, which is commonly referred to as Splenda, is a sugar molecule from which three atoms have been swapped out for chlorine. So while it tastes sweet, the body doesn't recognize it. So it doesn't attempt to break it down, and thus it has 0 calories. However, exactly because the body doesn't recognize it and sees it as a foreign invader, it activates the immune system and causes inflammation. And now, as we're all very aware, inflammation is pro-aging, the opposite of anti-aging. And I strongly recommend not considering sweeteners like aspartame, which is also not found in nature and is found in products like Equal and NutraSweet and Sugar Twin.
So somebody wrote in the chat, what about maple syrup? I'm a Vermonter. That's adorable. And at the end, we will answer all of your questions about other kinds of, is honey okay? Is maple syrup okay? Is allulose? A lot of, but for now, what we're going to say is no artificial sweeteners, no sucralose that causes inflammation, no sugar twin, no Equal, none of those things. And white refined sugar is a big, gigantic no-no. And sugar in the raw and brown sugar, they're just white sugar with a little bit of molasses left in to give it the brown color. So gigantic no-no. And I'm going to tell them a little bit about my kids if you want to fool around with your light, although I think you look fabulous.
No, it's okay. I've surrendered. I just put on one more light because I don't like sitting in the dark.
Yes. Well, you look fabulous. But I just want to say, and if you're worried about your kids, my kids actually did not have even a grain of sugar until they were like 5 years old and they went to a birthday party and, somebody had a cake and whatever. But they never missed it. Even their friends, I would sweeten their birthday cakes with applesauce, or sometimes I had recipes with mashed up banana, or sometimes I would use stevia. And their friends just gobbled up those cakes. They thought it was as delicious as the ones from Costco. They didn't know the difference. So you don't have to sacrifice taste, as Ronnie said, if you eliminate white sugar. So what is the next pillar?
Okay, the next pillar is physical exercise. And, exercise comes in all forms. And really, the definition of exercise is just a matter of getting your heart pumping. So even just rigorously cleaning your house can get the heart up, as you see in the lady on the left, and counts as exercise. Because again, you just need to get your heart rate up and you want to aim for at least 150 minutes a week minimum. And again, people exercise for different reasons, to look good, to prevent serious conditions like heart disease and obesity. Yet, how many people think about slowing down and reversing the aging of your brain when you hit the gym? But you just might after learning this. Because you see, exercise improves our cognitive functioning, our mental health, our memory, and it also hinders the development of certain neurological conditions. And if you're wondering how it does this, well, quite simply, exercise promotes the growth of new blood vessels in the brain as well as the body, and as well in the brain, it also results in an increase in oxygen delivery and oxygen saturation, in the areas of the brain associated with rational thinking, as well as with our intellectual, our social, and our physical performance. And exercise even increases the brain volume. And in this slide, you can see how an exercise intervention was so effective at increasing the size of the hippocampus. Remember, the primary memory and learning center, which is also involved in emotion experiences. And this study also looked at the important anterior hippocampus, which is where cell proliferation occurs. And what they found was that the aerobic exercise group demonstrated an increase in volume of about 2% in 6 months, while the controls who just did simple stretching for the same amount of time had about a 1.5% decline in the same area over the same period of time. And what this means is that aerobic exercise both prevented the typical loss in brain volume and it created an increase. And the net difference between the two groups was about 3.5% in the important hippocampus for exercising versus non-exercising adults. And I think the brain is one place we can all agree that losing weight is not a plus. And by the way, similar results are also found in other areas of the brain. And although what has been discovered by science is that cardiovascular exercise is one of the best ways to improve and maintain heart health, you need to get your heart rate up to strengthen the heart and the blood vessels. But there is a caveat because research also shows that heavy sessions of constant cardio, meaning spinning or running for more than 60 minutes every day, actually speeds up the aging process. So you do not want to over exercise. There is a threshold where you do more harm than good. And I'd also like to add before closing out this pillar that all 6 of the pillars for lifelong brain and body health do have a biologic basis for slowing and reversing many of the parameters of aging. And it's not just our brains, it's our body as well, because our biologic age or how youthful our bodies are has consistently been found to be years younger than our chronologic age or how many years since we were born when people implement the suggestions we're sharing with you today.
Yes, thank you for emphasizing that it's not just the brain, it's the body as well, because we get as you said, most disease has its basis in inflammation, and certainly inflammation happens in the body. So what is the next pillar for slowing, stopping, and reversing aging?
It is social connection. And the reason that this is so important for brain health is that serotonin, which is known by many as the feel-good hormone, and it's a key brain chemical that fights depression. And it also, beyond that, plays an important role in information processing. So even during COVID, we still needed to be connecting. And in fact, a lot of the depression that was triggered during the pandemic is attributed to loss of human contact. Depression has abnormally low levels of serotonin. And when we connect, we generate the feel-good hormone serotonin, which is responsible for our happiness. But in contrast, feeling isolated and the resulting depression stimulates the atrophy of the brain. And additionally, stress secretes the hormone cortisol, which ages the brain. But in contrast, again, being socially connected triggers the production of serotonin, which protects the brain from aging. So even just interacting with people on Zoom and looking at other smiling faces activates our production of the feel-good hormone serotonin. And in addition, we know that when we lock in and we connect with others, it truly makes our positive emotions contagious like a virus. But this is a good virus, and positive emotions do spread from one person's brain to another. And it can help them increase their own production of serotonin as well.
You know, I know that that's true because when this slide comes up, I just have to smile. I look at those faces, I smile, my heart feels good. I can, and what you're saying is that it actually secretes the feel good hormone serotonin. Maybe it's because the girl in the middle is a Cubs fan, and I'm from the north side of Chicago, so hello, go Cubs. But this absolutely makes so much sense. But is there science behind it?
Of course, I don't say anything unless there's science behind
That's
it. And the
true.
fact that our emotions are contagious and spread from one person's brain to another is what I personally find one of the most exciting discoveries in neuroscience. And it's the discovery of what is termed mirror neuron systems, that our brains actually connect and mirror the activity in the brain of the person we're talking to, something akin to like neural Wi-Fi. But it would take a lot longer than we have left for me to go into it in more depth, but we do go into it really deeply, and how to harness the power of mirror neuron systems in our upcoming course. So that's the time when I go into it more deeply.
Yes, and I don't think that we even mentioned yet, maybe slightly, that we do teach a course. This is kind of just the tippity tip of the iceberg. And we share whatever we can fit in 90 minutes. But we do teach an entire course, which is 5 hours on a Saturday and 5 hours on a Sunday. It's actually coming up this weekend. We it's called Ageless, obviously, but
Great
basically,
name.
it is a great name. But basically, we share many things that contribute to aging of our bodies and brains, and what we can do to stop the downward spiral. Much more than we can do in these 90 minutes. And we'll teach you not only what you can do to create a beautiful, healthy brain and body, but during the course, we also talk about eye health, hair, skin, so much more. We even talk about silent agers that most people don't know about, things like electromagnetic fields and 5G and so and even personal care products that we put on our face and on our head, and we don't even know that they're aging us. And during our course, we also talk about the aging effects of non-organic and genetically modified organisms in our food, so many things. And the other thing, one of the things that I'm personally very attached to, is giving you lots of information about what we can do to protect young children from the silent bandits that are stealing their clarity and their vibrancy and their happiness. And because I happen to have 17 godchildren, and I want to protect their precious brains development, and how we can, because we can't not raise them exposed to things like 5G and EMFs, but there are things that we can do to protect their precious eyes and their precious brains. But anyway, we'll talk about our course at the end of this presentation. There are two more pillars. So what is the next pillar?
Aha, the next pillar is mental stimulation. And you know that expression, use it or lose it? It could not be more true of anything than the human brain. And you can see in this slide all the things that you can do to protect the brain. The takeaway, the general theme is that the greater the novelty, the greater the benefit. So I've created a couple of categories. And the first one is enjoying strategy games and riddles and teasers and things like Sudoku, because they provide a great mental workout which builds the brain's capacity to form and retain cognitive associations. And the next batch of things I categorize as follow the road less traveled, meaning we need to do something different than your habit. For example, eat with your non-dominant hand, sign register receipts with the non-dominant hand, even pay attention when you reach into the cabinet to pull out a bottle. Which hand do you pull it out with? And once it's out, which hand do you screw the top off with? And do these in a different way. And when we vary our habits differently, it creates new neural pathways. And one of the other aspects is you cannot keep doing the same thing. So if you love crocheting, or if you find knitting very meditative, that's great. But in order to enhance our brains, You need to do something different. Take up another habit, learn a new language, or take up car mechanics or gardening. This is a great time of year in the Northern Hemisphere to do gardening. You have to do something different. And also you can practice memorization. This helps as well. And, think of some poem that you really love and memorize it, because this strengthens the memory connections in the brain. And to give you a taste of how doing something that is the road less traveled, like brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, can help the brain, let me do a little experiment with you. Take your hands and clasp them. Now, pay attention to which thumb is on top. Now, open your hands and clasp them again, but this time put the opposite thumb on top. And just hold it for a minute. Doesn't it feel a little awkward? So this is just doing something different, and it helps with brain health.
So when you do that, you're actually laying down new neural pathways just by doing something that small.
You're starting, yes.
Wow. That's so interesting. Okay, so we will do, and as I said at the beginning, those of you who were on at the beginning, and I greeted somebody from Paris in French. One of the things that Ronnie and I are doing is we're both learning a new language. I'm studying French, Duolingo, and Ronnie is studying Spanish. So that's another way that you can stimulate new neural pathways. So I know there's one more pillar, and I know that the university where you're on faculty down in Florida has you going into the community where you do an entire 90-minute program just on this one pillar.
Yeah, that's true. I do, because it's so important, and it's quality of sleep, because it has such powerful implications for brain health and body health and mental health and anti-aging. And unfortunately, lack of restorative sleep has become an epidemic in the industrialized world. In fact, 68% of Americans and similar numbers in other countries report trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, and waking feeling rejuvenated. And fortunately, we're all about solutions, and there are many things people can start doing the next time they go to bed to restore more rejuvenating sleep. So I'd like to share just one powerful tip right now, which can literally be an anti-aging boon, helping you feel younger and look younger as well. And here's how. In our sleep, we produce human growth hormone, the anti-aging hormone referred to as HGH. And HGH is involved in our brain function and our mood and our immune function. And on top of that, it also increases skin elasticity. It stimulates fat burning. It increases muscle mass and bone density. And the good news is that we can increase our production of HGH by a factor of 5-fold, simply depending on our sleep habits. So here's a pop quiz for you. Is it better to get 9 hours of sleep between midnight and 9 a.m. or shorter 7 hours of sleep between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m.? And why don't you go ahead and put in the chat your answer?
All right. So the question is it better to get 7 hours of sleep between 10 and 5, or 9 hours between midnight and 9? Okay, so we have a lot of people guessing here, and most of the guesses are between 10 and 5, 7 hours.
Actually, they all are. Amazing. Smart group. Yeah, and the reason is that even though it's 2 hours longer, going to sleep at midnight misses peak HGH production, because you can see here that HGH is produced while we sleep, and it's tied to circadian rhythms. So when we sleep makes a big difference, because again, we produce 5 times as much HGH between 10 p.m. and midnight than any other time of sleep. So if you're like me and Deborah, sometimes needing to burn the midnight oil, like us, you will be amazed at the difference being asleep during this window makes. And it really seems like that old adage, early to bed, early to ride, is really true. But Deborah, I'm watching the time, And we'll go into this more deeply about having more restful, rejuvenating sleep in our course. And oh, by the way, I also teach a meditation technique during the course that helps you fall asleep and stay asleep. And if you wake up, go back to sleep. But Deborah, why don't you go ahead and tell them about our course that's been 10 years in the making? We can give them the free gift, and then we can open the lines to Q&A, because I saw faster than I could read a lot of questions in the chat.
I know I have many questions that people wrote. So I'm going to go ahead. By the way, you said our course is 10 years in the making, but it's actually 50 years in the making, because even back in 1973, when we were students together at WashU, we always said, someday we've got to do something together. And here we are 50 years later. But I also want to remind everyone that we are going to be giving you that gift at the end. So hang in there for a few more minutes, and we'll give you the link. It will be yours. And as we mentioned at the beginning and a few other times, we have been wanting to share like almost everything we know. I mean, it's not everything we know, but we know a lot about slowing down and even reversing the aging process. And you've gotten a little taste of it today. But as rich as this was, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And what we have to share with you is so rich. There's no reason for people to age at the rate that we see. Both of us just went to our high school reunions, and some people look like our parents,
Yeah.
And people are saying, what are you girls doing? I mean, we weren't at the same reunion, but we both went to our 70th, although it was postponed. It should have been our 72nd. No, not our 70th, our 50th. It should have been our 52nd high school reunion. But people are always asking us, what are we doing? There's no reason for people to have brain fog and stress related disorders. And there's people have those in their 30s and 40s. No reason for older adults to all of, first the knees go, then the eyes go, then it's not necessary to have lack of energy and to have all of these diseases that people think are inevitable. They're not inevitable. One of the things we teach in the course is how to stop having that mindset that it is inevitable. Do you know, this is a little factoid for you. It's predicted that by science that 50% of adults will have some form of dementia or even Alzheimer's by the age of 85. 85. I'm 71. And it's just amazing to me that 50, that's like if you turn on the gallery view and you look at the person on either side of you, those people are going to have dementia or Alzheimer's, because it's 50% of you. But we want to teach you what to do so that you're not that one of the 50%. And it's not just for people who are in their 50s and 60s, 70s, who are already seeing their skin wrinkle and their bones creak. Start at whatever age you can, but definitely do not wait another day to not learn these things, and continue to do things unconsciously that are going to lead to premature aging. We want you to have this knowledge so you could have radiant health, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. So the course is a weekend format, and it starts Saturday. And you're already thinking, I want to do this course, but I'm already busy on Saturday. Don't worry, it's all recorded. And if you have to miss Saturday morning, you could still come Saturday afternoon and Sunday. But if you can't be there on Sunday, don't worry. You're going to get the recordings. Some people don't even choose to do it live. They want to do it more slowly, because there are 6 modules. So they want to do one the first week, implement those things, one module the second week, implement those things. And we have a Facebook group, so we do have that community whenever you choose to watch the modules. But let me give you a taste of what each of the modules are, and then we'll tell you things like the price, which you're going to be very happy about, and answer all of your questions. And we do have more to share with you. So module 1, which will be this Saturday morning, starting at 9 o'clock Pacific time, slowing and reversing brain decline. This is a big issue with people right now. A lot of people, as Ronnie talked about, they go into the parking lot, they can't remember where they parked their car, they can't remember their, friend's grandchildren's name or their friend's name for that matter. So in this session, you're going to discover the hidden destroyers of your brain and how to optimize your brain power, even in the midst of stress, because Ronnie told you how stress affects your brain. And we're also going to teach you an ancient meditation for brain health and longevity. And we're going to share what you can do to improve your ability to focus, have better long and short-term memory, enjoy enhanced problem-solving skills, tap into greater creativity. In fact, we're going to show you how to decrease 6 of the major risk factors for dementia. This module alone is something that everybody, especially if you are in your 50s, 60s like that, this module alone is, as they say, worth the price of admission. And Ronnie is going to share more scientifically validated secrets to growing a bigger brain at any age. And in this case, size does matter. So in module number 2, this is about your sleep and your mood and your happiness outside of sleep. In this session, you're going to discover how to get deep, restful, rejuvenating sleep every night. We're going to give you ancient and modern remedies to help you fall asleep faster, have uninterrupted sleep through the night, and even calm the stress response whenever you're feeling anxious about anything, even alleviate depression. And one of the parts we love is we're going to share what the ancient Indian science of Vastu, which predates feng shui, says about how to get the deepest sleep and wake up refreshed and rejuvenated and remain clear and happy throughout the day. And as Ronnie said, she's going to lead you through an ancient practice called Yoga Nidra, and it's going to give you the experience of deep relaxation. You could use it anytime. We'll give you a video file of it. And we're going to give video files of everything, but we pull out the meditations and these techniques so you don't have to go through all of the entire 90-minute module to just find the Yoga Nidra. But it does help, and you can play it anytime you want to fall asleep or if you wake up in the middle of the night to get back to sleep. Module number 3 is about your diet, and we're going to share which foods enhance your clarity, your vitality, your immunity, and also which foods slow down the aging process, but not only just which foods, but how to prepare them properly. You could eat kale until the cows come home, but if it's not prepared properly or it's not going to have that same kind of anti-aging effect. And we also are going to share what foods and additives may cause damage to your brain. I use the word irreparable there because science has shown that when we beat up our brain with some of these foods and additives, it can cause irreparable damage and also impair your memory and lead to dementia. So we want you to stop eating them now. And also what foods to avoid if you want to have a strong, youthful body and muscle tone and more glowing, radiant skin. I always brag about Ronnie. We're going to give you our landing page in a second. And there's a picture of Ronnie there from a couple years ago, just 2 or 3 years ago, where she's flexing her biceps. And I'm like, girl, we got to put that picture up there. Anyway, we're also going to give you ancient Ayurvedic diet tips to balance the body and live in harmony with the natural rhythms of nature. And we'll also cover your common questions like, can gluten cause brain inflammation? How do we know if we're gluten intolerant? Is coffee really good for you? Is chocolate really healthy? What can I eat to increase the strength of my skin, the youthfulness of my skin? All of those things we cover, how to increase collagen, et cetera, et cetera. And module number 4 is all about exercise. What types of exercise are most helpful for anti-aging and which actually cause aging? We're also going to give you specific practices to unlock vitality, including a yoga technique to reverse aging of the brain and body that's been verified by science. There is research done at Yale University, among other places, about this technique that we're going to give to you. And scientifically, we're going to teach you at least one, I think two scientifically validated breathing techniques that are the quickest way to eliminate stress, oxygenate the brain, rebalance the brain, rebalance the nervous system. And anyway, many other techniques. We're also going to share let me reword that. Ronnie is going to share what the cutting edge field of epigenetics has uncovered about our power to change the expression of our genetic code. Ronnie loves the field of epigenetics. Look at her smiling. You know, it's really good to have somebody who is a certified science geek on board because she loves giving you the science. And what science has uncovered is just because your mother and your grandmother had it does not mean you have it. You're going to get it, whatever the disease is. And Ronnie's going to explain that to you and how the field of epigenetics has uncovered that. Module number 5, this is one of my passions, which is the silent threats to your brain and body. And in this module, you're going to discover the insidious natures of electromagnetic fields and 5G networks to wreak havoc on your brain and your body. And we're all about good news. What are the remedies? How you can protect yourself and how to protect the healthy development of your children's and your grandchildren's brains, bodies, and eyes in our modern electromagnetic world. We're even going to talk about personal care products and household cleaners in your home and how they affect your longevity. And then we're going to tell you more about what is in your food that no one has told you is causing dramatic aging. And we're going to demonstrate a technique. Again, this is worth the price of admission. That you can do every day that stimulates the lymph system. The lymph is your body's built-in toxin removal system, but it can get sluggish. And as you know, because as you know, the lymph system can get sluggish. We're going to show you a way to stimulate the lymph system so it could do its job optimally. And finally, module number 6, people think using your thoughts to create your future. Oh, should I just think happy thoughts? Well, the truth is your thoughts do affect how rapidly you age. And there's science behind that. And your thoughts do influence your daily emotions. And we're going to show you how you can take control and how you can be resiliently happy, regardless of outer circumstances, and how to supercharge the energy behind your desires. This is what I teach in Yes to Success. So I'm throwing this in here for all of you because there are ways that you can supercharge your desires, and especially your desire for better health. And I do share, and Ronnie does share, what neuroscience has discovered about training your brain to be resilient, to be happy, and to reverse aging. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have a Facebook community. So how much does all of this cost? I think you're going to be really excited because we know that there are courses on the internet that are 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times this much. But the regular price of our entire weekend is only $4.97. And if you register before noon, noon Pacific time, so you still have an hour and 45 minutes, our webinar special price is $3.97 or 3 payments of $139. So I hope you're very, very excited about that. And if you want more information about the course, you can go to oh, by the way, there's 100% money back guarantee. If you are not completely thrilled with the course, if you've been with us all weekend, by Sunday night, if you're like, nah, this wasn't all it was cracked up to be, then we will give you 100% of your money back. No questions asked. And if you want to get more information about the course, you can go to yes2success.com/ageless. And there's a whole landing page. It has a whole bunch of information. It has testimonials. It has a video. It has everything you want. So again, the course is Saturday and Sunday, the 10th and 11th, which is this weekend, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific, which is 12 noon to 6 on Eastern time. Exact same hours, Saturday and Sunday. There is an hour for lunch. Well, I guess on the East Coast, it would be like early dinner, but there is an hour break in the middle. And again, go to yes2success.com/ageless. So I'm sure that a lot of you are very, very excited, and we already have hundreds of people who are going to be joining us this weekend. So it's going to be a very fun and exciting weekend. A few things that I'm sure you want to know. One is that it is very interactive. We do teach you yoga nidra, but you can do it from your chair. Don't worry about it. If you can't twist yourself in a pretzel, don't worry about it. You won't have to. We teach you super brain yoga. We teach you breathing techniques. We teach you meditation. So it's not just sitting and listening to Ronnie and me talk and give you science, even though I find the science now. I am not a science geek, but I find it completely fascinating. And the other thing that I think you're going to be excited about, because again, it is a Saturday and Sunday, and it is this Saturday and Sunday, you will get the recordings of everything. It'll be in your inbox bright and early Monday morning. And don't worry if you have to miss like Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon, or you have to go to a wedding on Saturday afternoon. It's not sequential. So just be with us when you can. All right. And the rest you can listen to when the replay. And by the way, the audio replays, they are yours for the rest of your life. You can have them in your own library for the rest of your life. The videos will be up till the end of the year. I think they'll come down December 10th when we need to make room for the next courses that we will be teaching. You know, I also teach Yes to Success and all kinds of other courses. So we're going to free up that space. One other piece of good news is that after the 10th and 11th, we're going to be together one more time. And that is on June 21st. Mark your calendars. Everybody who registers for Ageless is also going to be invited to an amazing evening with Esther Gokhale, who the New York Times calls the posture guru of Silicon Valley. She is a lovely woman. I heard her 90-minute it's about a 60-minute presentation. It's also interactive. And it changed my life. I started integrating into my daily life what I learned from her in this 8 steps to a pain-free back and a long and strong spine for the rest of your life. I heard it years ago, and that's why Ronnie and I invited her to be a speaker. She literally charges thousands and thousands of dollars when she speaks at corporations in Silicon Valley, and she's going to give us the same presentation, but it's going to be part of the Ageless. When you sign up for Ageless, this is part of it. You don't have to pay extra for it. But 2 things that Ronnie and I were commenting on. First of all, I used to have very bad back pain, and it really is gone from the few things that Esther has shown me. And the other thing is that we were also commenting on how when we went to our high school reunions, a lot of the guys who used to be really much taller than us are kind of like our height now, which is like, wow, really? And but Esther taught us how to have a long and strong spine, so our spine does not compress. So that's very exciting. Anyway, I know we have a lot of questions in the chat. Ronnie, is there anything that I forgot to say before we open up the line to Q&A?
No, the only thing that I will add is that with the Facebook community, you and I go on every other day. You go on one day and I go on the next day. So questions that come up as you continue to implement the lifestyle changes we talk about, any questions or insights that come up, you just put in the chat. And the beauty of the in our Facebook community, and the beauty of it is that, as you may have seen in the chat, there are so many amazing people who are on the program with us that in addition to what we bring, other people will provide other resources as well. And it's such a loving, supportive community. And if there's one thing we know about human nature, it's we like to do things in groups. We're not meant to be in isolation. And so having that community to cheer us on and connect with us really is another beautiful aspect, which I personally really love about the Ageless program.
Yes, I agree with you there. And gosh, oh, one other thing, and then we'll give you your free gift and we'll open it up to live Q&A. But one other thing I want to add is that a lot of people, I know I could read your mind, you're thinking, oh, I wish that my husband, or I wish that my wife, my partner, my child had heard this, because I want them to do this with me. Another piece of good news is that invite them to do it with you. You don't have to pay another $397. Just absolutely, if you have somebody who lives in your household with you, they are absolutely invited to do this event with you. As your guest, as our guest. That doesn't mean that you send the links to your second cousin twice removed in Serbia, but it does mean that if somebody lives with you, they're more than welcome. As a matter of fact, we like people who have other people living in their homes, to have the people who live in their homes watch this with them. Because if you're going to be making lifestyle changes, dietary changes, whatever it is, it's great for them to be on board as well. Not necessary, but it is great for them to be on board as well. So with that, we want to give you your gift as our thank you for staying on, and actually 3 gifts. And the gifts are 3 powerful meditations. And these are meditations that I recorded. And the first meditation is all about getting rid of stress and anxiety, and it's very peaceful and centering. And this, you could do your straw breath before it and then do the meditation. And then the second one is, one of the things we know is that there's a lot of stress in the world right now. And sometimes we feel like we want to do something to contribute to create a more peaceful planet. And the second meditation is, it's also settling for yourself, but it's also spreading love and peace to the planet. And then the third one, believe it or not, is a forgiveness process. Because one of the things you'll learn in module 6 during the course is that when, you know, that expression, lack of forgiveness is, what is it? It's like eating poison and expecting somebody else to die. When you have emotional states like lack of forgiveness, it does cause stress. And we learned from Ronnie what stress does in our system. So we are sharing with you a beautiful meditation that really helps you let go and forgive. And that's a lot of people's favorite meditation. I think you're going to love it. So that's our gift to you. Just go to yes2success.com/meditation dash bonus. And again, there's so many questions that people are sending me privately, and thank you, Christina, for answering all the questions, because I don't know what we'd do without you. And now we are going to open up the lines to live Q&A. And in order to ask us a question live, at the bottom, you'll see the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see something that says reactions. Click on the reactions button and you'll see a little hand icon, and you can click on that icon and it will raise your hand. And then you can, like Suzanne just did, and Robert just did, and Janet just did, and Nancy just did. And while other people are raising their hands, can you just give us a little bit more information about, people asked about erythritol, maple syrup, allulose, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit of a tutorial on those?
Yeah, okay, so maple syrup is good in limited amounts because it's very high in glucose. The glycemic index is actually higher than white sugar. However, to counter that, it does have vitamins and minerals, and it has more fiber in it. So again, in limited quantities, it's absolutely delicious. But it's not like a free for all. Now, the other things, the erythritol and the allulose, these things are touted as like miracles because they taste sweet and they have no calories. However, just like I talked about the sucralose, that anything made in a laboratory has a negative effect. And things like erythritol and all of the things that end in tol, except for birch bark xylitol, are actually made in a laboratory. And they usually start with genetically modified organisms. And it's a chemical process. And there are many studies coming out now looking at the negative consequences of those things. In fact, a really scary one, which we'll be talking about more in the course, is that one of the quote tols has now been linked to the unraveling of our DNA, that it actually breaks down our DNA, our genetic code. So basically, stay away from all of the tols, with the exception of birch bark xylitol. And with xylitol, it needs to specifically say birch bark, because the other xylitol is made in the same way that erythritol and maltitol and all the other tols are made.
Thank you. All right. So we have some other questions, but I am going to have Suzanne, as long as we have some live questioners. Suzanne, there we
Yes.
go. Hi.
Hello.
Good to
Thank
see
you very much. This has been very informative.
Good.
I listen to a lot of people talk, and you guys are saying a lot of great things. I guess my biggest thing is my sleep, and I use the blue light glasses while I'm watching TV. I have EMF protectors all over my house. I try to go to bed consistently between 11 and get up at 6:30 in the morning. Um, what else do I do? And I try to eat, 4 to 5 hours before I go to bed. I don't, after I eat, I don't snack or anything like that. So I'm just wondering, and sometimes I almost feel like I have like this electric impulse going through my body. And I wear EMF protectors on my body too. So I'm like, what's wrong?
Hmm. Well, one of the things is to really look at the science behind the EMF protectors that you're using, because
Mhm.
some of them are not very effective. But assuming that the EMF protectors that you are using are valid, and one of the things on the program is that we do have a resource center where we list, for example, several EMF protectors that we've read the science behind them that we are comfortable with. And with sweeteners, for example, my favorite is monk fruit, and people have trouble finding a monk fruit that doesn't have erythritol and maltitol and all this other garbage in it. And so we have links for that. So that would help as well. I would say that if you're doing all of that, the two things that I would look at is how close to bed are you exercising?
I usually exercise in the morning.
And do you get a minimum of like 150 minutes a week of exercise?
Yes, and I do Orange Theory, and I just signed up for Hot Works, which is working out in the sauna, doing all kinds of different
Okay,
stuff.
so then the one other thing that I would suggest to you is to check how dark your room is.
And I wear a mask at night too.
Okay, well, even if you
I
wear
have
a
a
mask,
suggestion.
even
I'm
if
gonna
you
tell
wear a
you my,
mask, light
well,
can
well,
sometimes
yeah,
come in
yeah,
on the
'cause-
bottom. And you
yeah,
need to make sure that your mask is dark enough to keep out all of the light.
Yes, it does, because I have to lift it up to check and see what time is it in the morning.
Right,
So
but-
it
but
is a good
still-
mask.
But still, even if you have to lift it up to see something like that, if the mask is a lighter color or a lighter fabric and some light gets through, then what happens when light hits the eyeball
Yeah.
is it signals the pineal gland that to stop producing melatonin. And so it
Okay.
interferes with really deep sleep, which is why we recommend really blackout room and really dark that don't let any light in.
Mhm.
And you might try changing. One thing that I found that made a difference is instead of using a mask, I throw a dark t-shirt over my eyes because it conforms to the face and I'm an active sleeper, I'm told. And even just turning around my head all that and one side to the other, it stays in place. So I would try that. And make sure that you're not having caffeine or sugar because some people
Well, that's
slow
the only thing
metabolizers.
I'm
you know what?
wondering.
I'm gonna jump in right now. I think we have to move on
Okay,
because we
perfect.
have I have like 9 more questions and 3 more people. So let's just do lightning round answers.
Okay.
The one other thing that I would say is all these things we cover in the course. So we give a lot of different things. We talk about the masks in the course and a lot of other things that you can do before you go to sleep at night. And the one other thing that I would recommend is that there's a lot of science behind learning an effective meditation technique that we promised that we would talk about.
Okay.
Ronnie and I, we recommend 2 meditation techniques that have been scientifically verified. One is through the Art of Living Foundation. Somebody put artofliving.org called Sahaj Samadhi meditation, and the other is the Transcendental Meditation Technique. Both of those have a plethora of scientific research that actually verifies that there are, I mean, just tons of research about how it helps sleep, and also the breath practice, the sky breath that Ronnie mentioned, which is
Yep.
also through the Art of Living Foundation. Amazing results for people. in terms of their sleep. So those are the things that I would recommend, because it sounds like you're doing
Yeah.
everything else
Yeah,
right.
and everything you're doing, I would recommend Sky Breath #1.
Okay.
Yes. So we also talk about more about that during the course as well. But thank you,
Okay. All right.
Suzanne.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
No problem. Okay, we're going to do lightning round now.
Okay,
We're going to give 30-second answers. We have, oops,
Robert.
Yes, I unmuted. I've had recently a CAT scan showing that my breastbone is sunk down and my heart is flattened behind it. It doesn't have enough room to really pump out as much blood as it could. And I notice when I exert myself with exercise, it beats too fast because it's trying to make up for not having the volume of compression. They want to separate the ribs from the breastbone and put in a piece of metal and restructure my whole rib cage. It's a massive surgery, and I'm 72. I'd like to have the full range of my heart and endurance. And so one, is it necessary? And two, how can I heal fastest from this?
Okay, those are two questions. The first thing is, Robert, I would highly recommend that you find an integrative physician and get a second opinion. Highly, highly recommend that. That you absolutely get a second opinion from somebody who's board certified in integrative medicine. That's #1. And #2, there are many things that help heal faster. Meditation is one of them. But again, meditation is a catchphrase like transportation, and there's a huge difference between a rowboat and an airplane. So I would go with one of the two meditations that Deborah has already mentioned, either transcendental meditation or Sahaj Samadhi meditation. And that could really be a benefit as well.
Good. Thank you.
Sure.
very good. Thank you, Robert. Okay, next, Janet. Hey, Janet, you can unmute.
Yeah, am
There you
I okay now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. I'm 78 and I just happened to have a horrible accident where I broke my back for the third time and my arm for, about the same time. And I started transcendental meditation and I've heard that it can really do incredible things. But with the back and all the pain, I noticed that I have trouble doing the transcendental meditation. I mean, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. I mean, do you have a solution? Or if I take your course, will somehow, because I have trouble walking like I used to, I can't stand up as straight as I used to. I have so many things I have to fix. And I have lots of things I want to do. I'm a coach and I want to keep helping people. So what do you suggest?
Well, what I would suggest is that you still, if you have trouble sitting for the meditation, you don't have to sit like a statue. If you need to move. And if you need to every few minutes adjust your posture in the meditation, that's absolutely fine. But continue doing the meditation. It's important also that you look to nutrition, that you look to your stress levels, that you look, because that affects bone density. Believe it or not, our emotions affect bone density as well, and healing levels, immune function. So you want to be really strong getting your emotions in check, which we talk about on the course. You want to make sure about your nutrition, that you're not unknowingly eating things that are slowing up your healing. You want to make sure that you get to the deepest stages of sleep, which is when the rejuvenation takes place. And you want to really look at tools for your mindset. And all of those things will definitely make a difference.
Well, that's lovely. I have really trouble not having all of these thoughts coming into my mind all the time. So I just can't.
I actually have a suggestion also. First of all, as Ronnie said, you don't have to sit up straight as an arrow. I mean, there are people who are confined to bed and just lift up their head a little bit to do their meditation. So just make sure that you're comfortable. If you have to use all kinds of pillows and and like that. But I think the other thing that you should do is to contact your local TM center and have your meditation checked. And I think your TM teacher will be able to give you instructions as to how, because TM is
Yes.
effortless. It shouldn't be, and don't worry about, we're not going to go into it now because, you know, the hundreds of people who are on the line are not TM practitioners, but thoughts are not a problem in this meditation. That's why we recommend TM in the Art of Living Sahaj meditation, because they are so effortless and anybody can do them and it doesn't involve concentration. So, but I think
Very
you should
good
call
point,
your-
Deborah. Thank you.
yeah. So I think you should call your teacher and get your meditation checked.
Okay, I'll call
And
them
take our
tomorrow.
course and you'll find all other ways that you
I'll
can
take it
really-
again for the third time.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was
good.
gonna say, I mean, I know that I know you. I thought, hasn't she taken this already, or is it just yes to success? Anyway, good to see.
Good things have to be repeated.
They do.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, I always say, you know, well, this isn't about yes to success, but um I have people who have, like my friend Marcy Scheimoff has taken yes to success 17 times. So it's you're supposed to have to hear something 17 times before you own it. So Janet, if you've taken Ageless 3 times, you still got what, 13 more to go. Anyway. Okay.
Oh, and
Don-
remember the discount for repeaters.
Thank you. Yes. And the discount for repeaters, just write to Renee, you know, Renee, just write to support@yes2success.com. And the repeater courses cost is only $97. Also, can you put up the slide again before we talk to Donna that has the price and the hours and there you go. Thank you, dear. So again, it's this Saturday and Sunday, June 10th and 11th from 9 to 3 Pacific. And again, if you have to miss any part of this, don't worry, because everything is recorded and you will get all the recordings. You'll have the audio recordings in your library for the rest of your life. And the cost is only $397. If you register within the next hour and 20 minutes, then it goes back to $497. But honestly, from my heart, I have to say, just one thing that Ronnie has taught me has made so much more than difference than $397 worth, because it's changed my health and it's changed my life and it's changed my mental clarity. And, you know, I'll be forever grateful. And we don't just give you one thing, we give you dozens that will make an incredible difference. We don't want you 5 years from now, you know, having the knees going and the back pain and this and this. And it's like, wow, I wish I would have taken the course from those women, you know, back 5 years ago. Do it now. And if it's not everything that we're saying it is, you get your money back anyway. So there's nothing to lose. And Ronnie always likes to quote how many refunds we've had.
Right. Zero. We've taught more than 1,000 people. Several thousand have gone through the course, and not a single person who's ever gone through the course has taken advantage of the no questions asked full refund.
Yep. We have had people who registered and then the day before realize, oh, I don't know. And then they ask for their money back. But after they've taken the course, nobody, because their life is so dramatically different that they just, you know, and then in the payment plan, which is $139 a month, people say, you're letting people make their second 2 payments, you know, a month from now and 2 months from now. Yeah. And we have never had anybody default on their payments either, because they're so immensely grateful for how their aches and pains have gone away. Their mental clarity has increased. Their happiness has increased. Their lives are so different. So, yep, they're happy to pay their other 2 payments. Anyway, here we go. Now, Donna.
Hi, thank you so much. So first of all, before I get onto my real question, it's about sleep quality as I'm listening. And I don't know how you ladies feel about, I use Insight Timer. It's an application, and I wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and I turn that on and I'm like done. I just fall right back to sleep, and it's done miracles for me and some of my friends. So if anyone is interested in that, I highly recommend it. It's called Insight Timer. You get to pick the sound that you're listening to, whether it's waves or the birds or campfire, the stream, and you set the time, how long you want it to go. So I'll set it for an hour, fall asleep, I wake up, I go back to bed, set it again, and I go back to sleep. It's
Wow.
miraculous. I'm just saying.
That
It's
sounds
pretty amazing.
very cool.
So I don't know how you feel about that because it is, you know,
Well, I don't know.
really-
We'll have to look into it.
yeah, as long as the phone light is not on, I think everybody's fine. But my real question is, the reason I raised my hand is I want to know if when you discuss food, and I don't know if you talk about food allergy, but inflammatory foods. So I retired July of last year, and a few things have happened to me since I retired. I'm no longer sitting in a chair for 40 years. I'm now up and I'm moving my body. I do prep cooking for Chipotle and I'm like physical all morning. And then I have the rest of the day. So it's a beautiful gig that I have going. But I've noticed that my feet hurt. My hands are, when I wake up in the morning, they're all tight and cramped. So I don't know the foods that cause inflammation. Does that promote this stiffness?
Yes.
And does it also affect in some way the thyroid? Because my thyroid has been perfectly fine for years, and now all of a sudden my TSH is off the charts low. However, my free T3 and T4 are perfectly in the middle of the range. So strange. So I'm trying to figure out, and
Well-
also the super low TSH is also affecting my heart, giving me irregular heartbeat. So it
So
can
a
be.
couple of things, just real quick. Yes, pro-inflammatory foods can cause that cramping and arthritic conditions and all of that. However, if you are standing for hours, probably without proper padding and maybe without orthopedic arch supports, and you're doing repetitive movements for hours and hours, we're not meant to be doing that as humans. So I would suggest that you get a hold of an integrative orthopedic surgeon on that, and maybe consider doing something else, because I would say it's probable that the repetitive motion and the lack of proper alignment of the feet is the largest cause for the stiffness that you are feeling. And
Okay,
once one thing goes off in the body, then, it's like the hip bone's connected to the thigh bone and everything is connected. So I would say congratulations on retirement from being in a chair. It's great how enthusiastic you are. And maybe be a server where you're walking around.
Yeah,
instead of
that's
standing
good.
and doing that same repetitive